Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast. There's a little tremor in my voice. You might hear it because I'm scared. This was a brutal stage, finishing early. Probably a lot of you degenerates, if you're watching on the YouTube of LRCP, can see the lights brighter in the room. That's because the stage finished so early, because just a nuclear pace, crazy stage from Saint-Gobain, which is to the west of Foix, where they finished yesterday, a bit near me, but on the other side of the French border. 131 k's short stage. From there to Peyragudes, which is it's just medium, not medium mount. That's incorrect. It's Pogacar territory. We always
Yeah.
said this. The first 53 k's are flat. That will make break formation difficult, and then the Col d'Aspin starts. The longest climb of the day, 12 k's, 6.5%. Cat 1. Descent, there are barely any valleys. Descent, then into the Orcat d'Alzizan, which is 8.6 k's at 5%, but the first 4.5 are 7. Descent, short valley. Col de Valoron, which is 8.5 k's, 7.5%, a little bit irregular. Descent, even shorter valley through Loudenville, about 1,000 meters altitude, then going up to 1,500, up to Peyragudes, which is 8.1 k, 7%, because there's a ramp at the end where Froome stood still in whenever Aru took the yellow jersey off him back in the day. So it's very similar to Rom Colombier combos in that we have 20 minutes, 7 to 8% climbs, back to back with short valleys in between. It's slightly cooler conditions today, although I will say it's still warm. Like people saying, "Oh, it's cool now, it's Pogacar like temperatures." No, it's still warm summer conditions. It's still not raining, at least today. And yeah, I'm the man on the ground, even though I'm not actually at the race. But before the stage, Benji, Micah out. What did you think? How did you think that would affect Pogacar?
Ooh, I think before the stage, I would have said that it's more difficult to dictate how the race would go for UAE, as in they would be more. It would be more difficult to dictate, basically because they're so outnumbered when it comes to Jumbo, so that Jumbo will basically decide the pace on the first two climbs is what I expected on the stage. Was that your thoughts as well?
Yeah, I thought it just meant I was doing the maths again. No Soler, no Micah. That means are they just going to wait for Valorant and then just hard pace that uh, with no Micah's gone with McNulty as the last man left, and like I didn't think Bjerg and Hirschi could do anything because they frankly have been getting dropped uphill pretty quickly, particularly Hirschi. Bjerg's not always been too bad on shallow gradients.
Bjerg had one good pull this entire Tour de France on Col du Granon. On the first climb, he did the first half or the second half. Well, the first half of that climb, I think he paced that, and that was a really decent pull, I think,
Oh,
from Bjerg.
Telegraph,
But
yeah, I think you're
yeah,
right. And Jabel Jais, he's actually pulled on that before. Even, I think, her feet in 2021, he stayed there. But that being said, not a man who's ever been able to reduce groups. But before we get into the action, which started and didn't stop for the entirety of the stage, whether you're just starting out on your cycling journey or you're looking for those final tune-ups ahead of a big event or race, Zwift is the online cycling platform that makes things fun, and they're the LRCP show partner. There are 9 different worlds, thousands of kilometers of virtual road, including replicas of real-world climbs like the Alpe du Zwift and Ven Top. Workouts, training plans, and events are available for every level of rider. This massive community means you're never alone, especially if you join the LRCP Zwift Club. To stay in the loop, we will have a group ride through the LRCP Club on the stage 19 stage, because it's not safe for me to exercise watching these Tour de France stages at the moment. Like I can't do it on AltaCam. Like my heart rate's already at 200 BPM watching the stage. So stage 19 will do it. Stay tuned. We'll mention the time in tomorrow's episode, and Benji and I will hop on for a social spin and a chat on the Discord associated with it. But to find out more about Zwift or the Tour de France Femme avec Zwift coming up this weekend, go to Zwift.com and get your free 7-day trial if need be. But break formation was predictably difficult because the flat just would not go. Jumbo wanted a rider in. Then they relented a little bit. They're like, okay, it's not worth it. Let's just get the break go. Then Ineos wanted to get Pidcock in, and with a tug buddy, with a Van Baal, with a Castro. And then Jumbo were like, no, like we're not having that either. And so the break just didn't go,
yeah.
Benji.
But the notable aspect with the Jumbo move to neutralize Ineos was that Wout van Aert had not gone in the breakaway for like 30 kilometers in the stage, and we were nearing the intermediate sprint. And Van Aert responded to that Pidcock group when they were nearing the intermediate sprint. So I'm not sure he responded because of Pidcock being in that group to neutralize him, or because of the intermediate sprint. He went into that Pidcock group, he took one small turn and then sat up in the wheel, and the group got neutralized. So it worked for both ways, both for the IS, the intermediate sprint, and both for neutralizing Pidcock. And then the group moved towards that intermediate sprint. We had some moves by Alpecin because Philipsen suddenly cares about getting points again for the intermediate sprints. Because is he still fighting for the second spot in the points classification? I'm actually
I
not
think
sure, but I
he
think
is.
he is. Yeah, with Pogacar. So based on this, he was going for it. Van Aert sees that, and the wise thing, well, there's two parts of here. I don't think Wout van Aert should necessarily still go for it, but he's probably in his head with the potential record that he wants to break currently from Sagan, because otherwise he still wouldn't be fighting anymore. And when Philipsen goes for it, he doesn't care about Philipsen taking it, but he does speed up a bit to beat the lead out of Philipsen, Krieger on the line to get second there. So he still wants as many points as possible, which is visible, I think.
It's because Ekov is Dutch and Philipsen is Belgian. Philipsen was permitted to go for it. That must be the reason, or I don't know. But yeah, I think he should probably, like on stage 19. Wow, word of advice: let a small French team or another team collect a €1,500 in the intermediate sprint. Is my advice. But yeah, that wasn't the main action of the day. The break just wouldn't go properly. Doul and Bovin were ahead, but they're not serious guys for this stage. As we get to Col d'Aspin, Benoit is pacing because Roman Bardet is trying to go to a break with Pinot and Lutsenko. He's trying to get across, and a big break had formed with not too many GC threats, but Bardet was on 6:43, and Jumbo Visma seemed, I don't know, they just didn't want Bardet in the break, making their race harder than they probably thought it should be. But in that
Yeah.
break was, who was in there? Because they didn't show that second group. It was Simmons with Ciccone as a tug buddy, right?
Yes, certainly. We had a larger group just ahead, and also some of our puck picks were in there. Jungels was trying to bridge up and so forth. Lutsenko was in the group. Pinot was in the group. Stuff was happening at the front of the race, but because Jumbo was so vigilant at not letting the likes of Bardet go, which went on that Col d'Aspin climb with his team trying to bridge him towards the front with already two teammates at the front, Benoit started taking over for Jumbo on the Col d'Aspin. And once Benoit started pacing, and it wasn't Laporte who was actually still in the group, he was like sitting on the left back or something, and was trying to hold on for dear life. I didn't see Van Hooydonk today, so he probably just didn't have the best day, most likely, and I don't expect him to be the best on mountain stages as much as yesterday, for example, to the Foss stage. But once Benoit took over, I was kind of in doubt, like, is this necessary? Bardet's on 6:30 in GC. Is it necessary for Jumbo to be so responsive to DSM being in the breakaway? And I'm like, I don't see it as the end of the world to have Bardet in there. But
Nah, it's not a problem, really. Like, and he's got another minute from the TT, right? So he's really on 7:30 and Altacam tomorrow.
what,
So
8:30?
I think Bardet, okay, meet in the middle. But yeah, his TT's not been great throughout his career. Let's be real. So I agree with what you're saying, Benji. Aspin, maybe they paced a little bit too hard and put Benoit under a little bit too much pressure, because then they get to the next climb. This is where the stage just goes completely off the fucking rails. Mikkel Bjerg, 80-kilo ruler from UAE. They have Pogacar has three teammates. Hirschi, who's just trying to survive out here. I'm not sure if he OTL'd. So he's got two teammates. He's got Bjerg and McNulty. Bjerg, as I said, 80-kilo ruler, comes to the front on this stepped climb. The first 4K is a bit steeper, and he just shreds it. And the estimations haven't come through initially. I'm looking at Bjerg maybe 5.4, 5.6 echelon, but everyone's tired. And I think it caught everyone by surprise. And also, this is what UAE have been doing all Tour de France, if you pay attention closely. This is what they do. First 90 seconds, over threshold, extremely fast to get people out of the draft, to give up, whatever. And that's what happened. And then they ease up. We saw that with Micah on Pagure. And I think we saw that a little bit. I haven't got Bjerg's file, but that's what I think happened on this
Yeah,
climb as well, because the draft is extremely important. He's got like 33 kilometers an hour. And we saw Benoit just hang on, but Benji Yates, Godou, all
Pidcock.
Pidcock, all under pressure immediately.
Yeah, a group of 19, 18 started forming in that group because of Mikel Bier again. Jumbo was losing riders like Laporte earlier on the climb. Benoit was dropping off the back, and they were getting reduced to just having Wout van Aert, Vingegaard, and also Sepka's in that group. So it's basically a 3v3 at this point. So that's a very different situation from how we started today's stage. But then Bjerg started pushing harder and harder on this. Well, not he didn't start pushing harder and harder on this climb yet. He kept it to the top. They had that group, I think, thinned out to roughly 15 by the time they reached the top, roughly like that. And they were catching more riders from the breakaway because that breakaway was falling apart ahead where Lutsenko and Pinot were up the front for a bit. Then eventually got caught by the group Ciccone again. In KOM standings, plenty of stuff was happening to the point where I think Ciccone tried to gain as many points as possible. Gashka was in there to gain KOM points or secure it. He
Free
was not
Simmons.
at the front group. Do you think so?
I'm just saying that as a general point, just free Quinn Simmons. I think I'd like him to get super combative, actually. He's been in the break or doing
Yeah.
work for teammates all week. Sorry, I interrupted your train of thought, Benji. But yeah, I was looking back, seeing Mikkel Bjerg reducing the group to 20, dropping Adam Yates, and I was like, what is going on? Even Wout van Aert, I mean, didn't look under pressure there. But then, Benji, on the descent, we saw Pinot. So we've done now the first two climbs. We have a bit of a respite before Valeron Peyragudes combo. And Bjerg goes to the top. UAE don't push on the descent at all. And that lets eventually before Valeron, Pidcock, Yates go to everyone, or most of the guys come back. Menke's looking pretty good for his level here at this point. We see ahead Pinot. I think Lutsenko Benji, he's not got he has to never let Pinot in front of him on that descent. And I think Lutsenko knew, he's not stupid. He knew they had to work together. They had two climbs left. He wasn't pushing, but Pinot was struggling on the descent. Enric Mas was struggling. I will say, like, it is crazy that, listen, I crashed down Rabassa last year. I'm one to talk, but I'm not a professional cyclist. I'm a professional shit talker. Seeing a pro, like, he's always descending on the hoods, and I think the crashes this year have made his sort of slightly nervous descending go even worse because he's crashed maybe 3 times.
Yeah, and like for the logic, if people don't know that much about like descending technique and so forth, the reason that descending on the hoods is worse than descending in the drops, the bottom part of your handlebars, means that your center of gravity is higher, and therefore your lines in the corner will either be
He doesn't tip it in.
worse, or if you actually take the same lines as you would if you're in the drops, then it's more dangerous to crash because then you're basically having less grip because, well, your center of gravity is higher.
And
Does that
also,
make
you hit
sense?
a stone, you hit a bump. So remember when Bala crashed, and I think I don't know if he was in the hoods last year behind Carapaz in the Vuelta, but just for an example, you ride over a little gutter, your hands are on the hoods, you're sweaty, it's hot, they just slip off the top. Possible. That's what happened to me when I crashed. So I'm one to talk, as I know. But I know because I was like, fuck, if I was in the drops, not being stupid or just taking it too casual, that wouldn't have happened. Anyway, it might still happen. And yeah, so that's just Enric Mas descending, big issue for him. Anyway, they have Pinot and Lutsenko are going to be caught. And we know this is going to be a GC day. The gap's like a minute. Bardet is going to be caught. Leknesson tries to go clear. A little bit freed. Chris Hamilton wasn't freed. And yeah, Bardet was just too close. Anyway, Valeron get to the base. Mikkel Bjerg drops Wout van Aert. The first 3 kilometers, I grant you, they're not that steep. It is still, but like, he drops Wout van Aert, Mikkel Bjerg. He reduces the group again to like 20 riders. Then Brandon McNulty takes over, and it's crazy. He just drops literally everybody one by one. First, I think Yates and Pidcock, they were already gone. Then Godou's group with Vlasov, Quintana, Menkes. Then we just have Wout's gone, as I said. Then we have Koos, Jonas, Thomas, Pogacar, McNulty. Koos drops near to the top. McNulty's just tapping out a rhythm. Thomas drops at the end of Laurent. And I'm thinking, no, not even the end, Benji. There were still like 3Ks left in the climb,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. everybody was dropping in that group, and I was getting scared for everybody in the group because we're talking about a climb that is not the final climb of the day, and to have Yates drop the climb before that, man was destined to lose tons of minutes in the stage at that point. This group being so reduced on this climb right now, insane, and the McNulty pull that happened on this damn climb was brutal.
This is McNulty's surely best ever career performance. Like, if you were following maybe the articles back in February, he won a French one-day race, but today I thought he was going to launch Pogacar, and I actually think McNulty was stronger than Pogacar today, because eventually
Yeah.
we have Val Laurent. McNulty's pulled pretty much the entirety of the actual climb proper, and they broke the previous record. I don't know what the watts are yet on that climb. I know the Périgord one for now. And Pogacar doesn't attack on the climb itself. We knew he's going to attack over the descent because now Jonas has no teammates, no satellite rider. If he attacks on this descent, Jonas chasing the valley, big problems. But when Pogacar sat behind McNulty on Valoron Benji, and there's the steep section ends with 3Ks to go, I thought, like, I don't know, because I'm going back into flat earther mode, but I thought Pogacar, I don't think he thinks he can drop Jonas just head to head on a climb proper.
I think as a rider you have to believe that you can drop, otherwise you won't be starting it. But it is very clear from the way he's riding Laurent, that's how you say it.
You're looking at me for pronunciation tips.
Valoron. Yes. I can speak French. I had 10 years at school, okay? It just doesn't show every single time. But when it comes to this Valoron on this climb,
Flemish teaching French in Flanders ain't what it's cracked up to be. Any Walloons listening to this must be like, what's going on? They said they learned both languages. Val Laurent Azé. 10K is
Yes.
7.5%. No, maybe a bit less.
Yes, so the group was reducing. I just want to talk about this, okay? We've got the situation where McNulty is there, Pogacar is in the wheel, we've got Kuss still with Vingegaard. Kuss is still looking good at that point in the race, in my opinion. Thomas is still there, but like you said, every single rider is dropping, and the next rider to drop is Sepp Kuss. And Sepp Kuss is the kind of rider where I can't predict when he's about to drop. I genuinely cannot, because
I thought he looked good.
I thought he looked great, and then he was gone.
I thought he looked good, and then he's getting
the beat on.
Got a bit on. He's like on the legs, on the thighs. I think Thomas looked at the power meter and was like, "This is fucked." Also, he's like, "I can't hang with these guys." He's also, by the way, Thomas at this point's dropped everyone else contesting third, so he's like, "Power meter time. This is ridiculous." But I will say, I think Pogacar hoped that McNulty could drop Jonas or show a proper weakness in Jonas.
Yeah.
He didn't. He didn't attack on the climb.
Well,
and
yeah, that's true. On the climb, though.
No. But the descent attack stuff is different. That is not attacking him on the climb. That is trying to get a gap into the descent where he's heavier. But he's not. We've been saying this for a while. Pogacar's descending. It ain't that great. Go and look at Lombardia descent. He got caught by Fausto Masnada, who couldn't put his leg in the right direction in each hairpin, and Pog lost like 50 seconds in that descent whilst clear for a monument.
This descent was the most visible one, in my opinion, because they had someone in the group that was better, but we'll talk about the attack at the top first. So we see the situation. We've got 3 riders left at this point, nearing the top of this Valoron-Azé climb that I just pronounced correctly, so I'm fucking great at French. Anyway, we see Pogacar making a move before the top. McNulty's low-key dropped for a bit. Vingegaard responds very vigilantly, directly on the wheel of Pogacar. They go over the top together, and directly when Pogacar sees that his competitor in his wheel, the yellow jersey, Vingegaard, is not dropped, he sits up in the descent because he knows that...
Were you surprised by that?
I was expecting him to try and push through on the descent.
Yeah. I thought he'd try a couple more corners, like at least another couple of attacks. And Jonas has got more to lose in these corners.
Yeah, agreed. And when it comes to this descent, I did not expect Pogacar to be able to drop Vingegaard in this descent. So Pogacar was waiting for McNulty They
who's
came
also a
back
bad
together in the
descender.
descent, and we noticed that he wasn't a great descender in every corner, because we see a situation where McNulty is first, Pogacar is second, Vingegaard is third. Literally on, I think at least 4 to 5 corners, it was visible that in the corner, McNulty takes a very wide line, Pogacar takes a pretty wide line as well. Vingegaard's cornering is perfect, and he's able to pass Pogacar in the corner.
Yeah,
In each
undercuts him.
corner, he
Yeah.
undercuts him. And we saw that on Alpe d'Huez on the uphill as well. On that
Oh,
attack
true. Yeah.
from
No,
Pogacar.
I think he nearly clipped
Vingegaard's
his pedal.
yeah, Vingegaard's handling there was much better, and
Yeah.
it shows in this ascent as well. And I underrated Vingegaard's ascending. Like today, to me, proves that he's above average in descending, quite certainly, Jonas Vingegaard. And he's able to hold on in this ascent, but I expected stuff to happen in the valley, because I
Well,
didn't
just on
expect
the
Pogacar.
descending,
Yeah,
did
okay.
you notice? I feel McNulty locked up and then nearly crashed once, and then he nearly ran wide on 3, and then Pogacar was laying off him after that. After the first 4 or 5 hairpins, he gave him about 4 bike lengths, and at this point, the UAE guys were just stressing themselves out. Jonas is like, guys, he was almost, Kobe was like, Jonas is going up next to him and be like, this is actually how you descend properly. So this is why I said yesterday, if the descent was mano y mano yesterday, advantage Pog, because the last bit of it was false flat downhill. But technical steep, it looks like Jonas is better. And that's irrelevant for our preview of tomorrow's stage with the Spandell's descent. But yeah, in the valley, Benji, I agree with you. I was like, flat section, isn't this where the 66 kilo guy who is Tour of Flanders would have come second at worst? Like, he can try and put Jonas under pressure before the climb, and he just sat behind McNulty. We should go back. Well, no, I'll ask, were you surprised that he didn't try and attack him or go in front of McNulty, let the wheel go, sort of thing?
I wasn't expecting it on the descent. I was expecting it on the valley, like you mentioned. And like that valley, I was just expecting him to try and put an acceleration on the right side of the road, see if he can gap Vingegaard. McNulty tries to follow the gap of Vingegaard, for example, and see if a situation like that could happen. Because I think that Pogacar can handle the pacing on the flat better than Vingegaard. Is that wrong?
Yeah, I think it's always like the Froome versus Quintana thing. Who arrives at the climb fresher? It's the bigger guy. Was the advantage for Froome, but it's a short valley. It ends
Mm-hmm.
quickly. McNulty keeps pacing it. We see them having a chat actually before we enter Peyregoud about what to do. At this point, I already was like, I think Jonas is not getting dropped here at any point. Maybe
Yeah.
they'll have a sprint on the ramp, but Pogacar didn't try properly on the Valeron climb. He just went for the descent attack. He's not tried in the valley. We know from stage 11, Pogacar looked, I was already getting tweets abusing me on the Galibier, saying, you are a flat earther. He looked invincible on the Galibier and Telegraph, and then cracked on Grenal. We know yesterday, at least in my opinion, he looked good on the first climb, Port de l'Air, and then Pagura, I thought he could have been dropped, or at least put under pressure. And so I think his second climb seems to be less. So I just wasn't expecting it. Back in the other group, we have a group of Bardet, Lutsenko, Thomas, and forgive me if there's anyone else. Lutsenko moving up the GC standings,
Yeah.
and Bardet attacks the groups at the base after his maybe Leknesund was pulling for him, and then Thomas bridges across to him. Thomas then talks to him, and they're like, let's work together. And then Thomas eventually will just drop Bardet, I think, doing his pace. And then there's another group on the road with like Godu, Vlasov, Menkes, Quintana, not a great day for them, and Nick Schultz. Shout out Nick Schultz, unreal performance, and Enric Mas. But back in the GC group, Benji, Peyregoud, McNulty paces the entire climb. No Poggy attack. And bear in mind, there's a 5% kilometer after 5Ks. There's 2 steep kilometers halfway in. Pogacar needs, between me and Benji meeting in the middle, he needs to be a minute behind Jonas in the TT to make this interesting. And so he has to attack just before the ramp. Froome stood still on the ramp, lost 20 seconds, and
Yeah.
he didn't attack. And
Yeah.
do you think he was under pressure?
I think he was under pressure. I think Pogacar wasn't feeling the most comfortable to attack at this point in the race. And I think we saw that after the sector they were on. After that steep section, there's like one snippet that either I'm reading way too much into it, but I think I'm not, where McNulty starts going on the pedals for like a brief 3-4 seconds, goes a bit faster, and Pogacar
And a
directly
gap
grabs his
opens.
microphone. I didn't see the gap open
No,
personally, but
30 centimeters. I was
uh,
hyper analyzing. It probably didn't exist. I'm a flat
I
earther, remember?
I only saw that Pogacar directly grabbed his microphone, but the second that McNulty sat down, he took his hand off again. Like, he didn't actually need to talk into the microphone. It was like McNulty automatically didn't accelerate as much as he was just a second before that. I'm probably reading too much into it, but I actually don't think I am. I see that as a moment where Pogacar was about to say that he needs to make sure that he keeps a tempo that Pogacar himself can follow.
I think
And
McNulty was stronger.
possibly.
And I think also Pogacar was worried about the ramp. And as I think he wanted to come into the ramp with fresh legs. That's how I read it. And even there's a weird thing where I think Jonas moved ahead of Pogacar into the ramp.
Yeah.
Pogacar was losing the wheel. I was like, it was a bit weird. I'm not sure it was tactically the best thing, but maybe even Jonas was looking at Pogacar thinking, you don't really have it. But the pace definitely leveled off. And so we get to the ramp. The gap to Thomas with McNulty pacing is out to 130, huge gaps. And the two best in this race sprint up the ramp. Sorry, this has been a long recap, but mental stage. Pogacar first, Jonas in the wheel. Pogacar's bluffing, and Jonas attacks. Pogacar counters and wins the stage, but with no time gap. 4-second bonus, though, over Jonas Vingegaard in second. McNulty third. Thomas, wait for this, fourth on 2:07. Lushenko fifth, 2:34. Bardet sixth, 2:38. Godu seventh, 3:27. He outsprinted a group of Vlasov, Menkes, Quintana on the same time, 3:32. Schultz 11th, 3:38. And I obviously have severe indigestion because I've been so hyped up. Had too many sparkling waters today. But yeah, Jonas loses 4 seconds on GC. He's on 2:18 now instead of 2:22 ahead of Pogacar. Thomas is on 4:56. So I think Pogacar's second is safe. And Quintana is still on fourth. There's actually no changes in the top five, but they're now on 7:53, 7:57. Quintana Godu. Arday jumps back from ninth to sixth on 9:21. Menkes seventh, still 9:24. And Vlasov 9:56, eighth. Yates moves down 14:33 for, wow, in ninth, and 10th is on 16:35. That is mental. What a stage, Benji. Eventually, not huge gaps. UAE threw everything at it. Who should be happier after today's stage? Jumbo, who had an isolated Jonas all stage, or UAE, who threw everything at it, looked strong, but in the end only take 4 seconds?
I think both will have mixed feelings about this, where Pogacar wasn't able to gain in GC, but he got the stage win. His 9th stage win in 3 years, his 12th Grand Tour stage win in 4 Grand Tours. That's mental, by the way. Can we think about that? 12 stage wins in 4 Grand Tours. That's sprinter level when it comes to stage wins. Anyway, just wanted to get that out there. And Jumbo will not be happy because I think Jonas would have liked to have some confirmation today. After Granada on this one, he would also be better. But I think both. I think Jumbo on the
I'd
GC
rather
end
be
will
Jumbo.
have an overwhelming happiness because they were able to control for an entire. Well, they didn't do that much when it comes to control. UAE paced for them on 2 climbs, for example, but they only lost 4 seconds today, and it was Pogacar's territory, like we mentioned beforehand. So on paper, this was a terrain for Pogacar to take it back.
But in terms of what's on the final climb, and of course they're going to be less if the stage has been that chaotic. But yeah, for the 22 minutes, Pogacar did 6.21 watts per kilo echelon, which is so Col de Rome and Colombier combo last year. He did do more than that in rainy conditions. McNulty, I think, McNulty, I don't know what his Valoron was, but I think, I don't know. The watts aren't actually mutant, at least on Perigood. I gotta say, I have to see Val Laurent. The devastation is huge. That being said, am I surprised eventually that Pogacar and Jonas rode away from Thomas and Godu and Bardet? No. Am I surprised with Brandon McNulty after how he's looked for the rest of the tour? Yes. That being said, we've said it before, like the parkour suited Pogacar. The question again is, Jonas, I think there is one tweet translating a Danish interview where Jonas said he felt good, but could he have attacked Benji? Can he attack with McNulty still there, tapping out that rhythm?
I'll be honest, yesterday on Big Air, I would have said 100% he could have attacked here and he could have put Pogacar in trouble there. He could have dropped Pogacar there. Still stand by that 100%. I think if he made a move at 2 kilometers to go, I would have been very intrigued today to see if Pogacar would have been able to respond, because I still say he was on his limit and he was able to recover before having his final sprint. That's how I see today's stage. And I I'm not sure Jonas could have dropped him. I feel like,
I
is the
think it could
climb too
the
short?
sprint. It could have changed the sprint result, maybe.
Yeah.
Like if you put some pressure on Pogacar, but that could also work the other way for Jonas, and he doesn't want to lose. Like he's the one with the advantage. So
Yeah.
with a teammate there, it's not like Pogacar. I think where he should have attacked. I find it hard to say. Oh yeah, attack with McNulty driving 6.3 watts per kilo, and who probably could lift a bit more. But yeah, that wasn't all from the stage. We had at the back end, Benji. Somehow the camera's still rolling.
Crazy performance. Well, crazy as in he was able to make the time limit by 16 seconds only. Fabio Jakobsen on the last starting wrap, he had a minute 40, a minute 50 still left to the line. Well, out of time limit if he was not within those 1 minute 50, and he got closer and closer. And I'm glad there's footage of it, because this is like a godlike moment for that Netflix show, in my personal opinion. If Jakobsen ends up winning on the Champs-Elysees again, the fact that he's able to finish on 16 seconds of the time limit on a race like this, with only a time limit of 36 minutes, by the way.
Yeah, small time limit.
That's insane. That's a very small time limit, in my opinion, for a stage that was as brutal as this one. And the fact that it was ridden so fast probably reduces the time limit, right?
No, I think when it's faster than expected, it increases the time cut
Oh, okay.
percentage. Yeah,
Percentage
usually
itself is technically lower. It's just that,
the
let's say,
percentage. Oh yeah, true.
13%
Yeah,
of a 5-hour race is more than 13% of a 4-hour race. But because it's a 4-hour race, they make it 14% or something. Something like that?
yes, something like that. But I don't care, because if Cavendish was here, he
Get out of here!
he's there. Well, you don't know he's not there in the break. I mean, Jungels is in the break. He's in the break today, so we don't even have to have. Everyone could have gone home earlier. So Jakobsen was holding up the van, the voiture ballet. But anyway, free Cav. I think he will be freed with a handsome salary next year, so he doesn't need my free Cav promotion. Tomorrow's stage, the last mountain stage, stage 18 from Lourdes, the holy place, to Altacam, also the holy place for Danish climbers, 144 kilometers. Again, the start is flat, although the first 4.5 Ks are a little bit uphill. I think it will be easier for the break to go tomorrow, but it's largely 60 Ks of flat before Col d'Aubisque, which is 17 kilometers at 7%, including the 15th kilometer at 9%. That is a longer climb than anything we saw today, and harder. I think UAE will pace the first 7 kilometers with Bjerg and then launch it with McNulty, is what I think will happen on that climb. That's what I would do if I was them. It's then a step descent down, and then no valleys at all really tomorrow. The Col de Spandels, 10.2 kilometers, 8.3%, very hard 30-minute climb with the 9th kilometer at 10%. First case hard too. And then what I understand is a technical descent down before the Alta Camp. So that's 3 climbs back to back with no valley, all over 30 minutes. And then the Altagam 13.5 Ks, 8% is hard. Nothing to altitude. The weather is a bit milder, but still warm. And in terms of KOM, I'll just start with that first, because I have no idea what happened with that today. It seems like it's still Geschke. It's still Geschke leading. How? How's he only on 64 points? How is no one else? Anyway, poor old Geschke will lose it tomorrow.
Jonas Bogger coming closer.
Yeah,
Jonas is now on 12 points and Tadej on roughly 18, if my quick maths are correct, which are always doubtful at this point, to be fairly honest. But Geschke still holding on. I hope he holds on, because I don't want this to go towards a GC rider.
No way.
Come on, Geschke, you can do this. I believe in you. Nah, it's gonna go to Pogacar, I think, because Pogacar will try and go early, and he'll realize 1K before the spawn they'll top, then he might not win GC, and therefore he'll go for KOM as well and try and grasp that, and then see if he can get green jersey points just in case Wout van Aert crashes, so to try and get something there. Now it's in
I think Pogacar is more likely than Jonas, not because he's necessarily going to win on Autocam, but because when you sprint over the top of the crest of climbs, you go over first and take more points. Although
yeah.
Jonas has a lead, I'm not doing the maths at this point in the race, but I think one of the two, Jonas or Pogacar, take it off for Geschke tomorrow. His only chance is how the stage plays out. Again, if I'm Jumbo Visma, I want the break going earlier than today. Now, whether that means Wout does have to go in it, I think it's not a bad option. I think Wout in the break is a good option in case UAE launch Col d'Aubisque. You can have him for that descent at least, just, I don't know, to give a bit on to Jonas and help him out there. And so we also, as Benji mentioned, have guys deep on GC now, like 10th is on 16 minutes, if my memory is correct. Yeah, Mass on 16. So anyone from Bardet Bardet down, 6th down on 9:21, I think can go in the break. Although I don't think they'll want Bardet, Menkes, Vlasov in the break. And I think those other teams will chase those guys trying to get in the break. Yates can go 14:33. Him and Mas and Lutsenko, if I'm Jumbo, I'll let them in the break. So what do you think will happen tomorrow, Benji?
I think that if you're Jumbo in the situation, you look at today's stage and you learn a few things about that. You learn that Wout van Aert was not able to help too much today from the peloton because UAE was the one pacing and therefore he was not really necessary to pace. He paced a tiny bit on the Aspin, which I don't think he should have done because of the Bardet move. I don't think they should have responded to that personally. I think the ideal thing you can learn from today is that having riders ahead as a GC leader against a team that only has two functional domestique. Yesterday was one functional domestique, but I'd put Bjerg back in the functional domestique bracket after what he showed on today's stage, for example. But
Volbisk. He can do base of it.
Jumbo Visma 100% needs to learn from this and see, okay, we can put riders in the breakaway and then they will be there to actually help, because today they were not able to help because they were basically ridden off the back before they could do something. And that counts for two riders for me that could potentially be in the breakaway, similar to the Vos stage, Van Hooijdonk and Van Aert. I don't think Van Hooijdonk will be of much help regardless.
I'd go Laporte instead of Van Hooijdonk if he could. Either I'd interchange Van Hooijdonk and Laporte, but I think Wout is pretty key in the break. I do think these longer climbs are better if we go back to the Alps, where we had the Croix de la Fer combo, the Alpe d'Huez stage. Jumbo Visma were looking very good there, and Nathan Van Hooijdonk and paced Croix de la Fer, and no, Laporte paced most of it. So I think Orbisk suits them a little bit more. But if McNulty starts pacing, there's nothing those guys can do anyway, so they may as well be ahead. Spandels, if Pogacar wants to win the Tour, he must attack on Spandels and then go full on the descent. He has to, right? If he doesn't, then
his second position is like safer as well compared to SSA, so he can risk more. Like, he's got 2 minutes. Well, let's say you want at least a 30-second advantage to Thomas just in case when it comes to the time trial if you're Pogacar. A minute? Okay, let's say a minute. Then
GTT
he still has a
is
minute,
crazy.
Then he still has a minute 30 roughly to play with.
Yeah.
So he can risk something. And he's better than Thomas when it comes to the climbing anyway.
Not if he overextends.
Yeah.
Not if he overextends. He can be put in trouble if he doesn't feed correctly. But yeah, I think Pogacar will attack on Spandels, whether it's a proper attack in the middle of the climb. I'm not sure whether it's into the descent. I think that's more likely. And then Altacam is hard. And the 9th kilometer, 11th kilometer are steep, 10%, to be honest. Oh, the 8th kilometer is 11% too. To be honest, it suits Vingegaard more. All the climbs, frankly, they're steep. The first one's the less steep, but there won't be differences there. At least there shouldn't be. Spandels and Hartgam suit him more. But recovery, who knows? I'm going with Vingegaard to win the stage in yellow and seals the Tour de France tomorrow.
I'm going with Pogacar winning the stage and Vingegaard being second on the stage. And I don't think there will be differences between the two, but ideally for GC there are differences between the two, so we've got an interesting time trial to look at. Then again, I'm asking for tense stuff, but my heart can't take this anymore. Like, I've lost 10 years during this Tour de France. This has been a batshit crazy Tour de France.
So
So
good.
I don't know what, like, I want the more tense time trial, but on the other hand, I could use a rest day during that time trial. My heart could use a rest day.
The TT, it doesn't matter. If the gap's the same as this, if the gap's 2 minutes, the TT will be tens. I don't care what my math says. I know I did the rational maths on the rest day recap. If the gap is 2 minutes, this will be everyone like we will still be glued to our seats. Roglic was a dollar point like $1.03, I think, to win the tour before the Planche de Belfi TT in the market. So anything can happen. UAE came good at just the right time, launching today's stage. Can they repeat it tomorrow? We'll see. I think McNulty should be able to be helpful again. He was very, very strong today. Bjerg not as deep into the stage, and Jumbo, yeah, got to get riders up the road, I think. But the tour is still on. I'm very, very grateful we have a Pogacar trying to gain back time. Benji on the last mountain stage. It is worlds apart from Porte and Ardennes last year. I
Yeah.
guess last thoughts would be the GC action in the group behind. I would say that I think Menkes will move into fifth tomorrow, and he needs to take as much time as possible. I think this suits Menkes tomorrow, and he moves up. And I think Godou and Bardet have another bad day.
I think Bardet comes back. I think the
You
longer
reckon?
climbs fit Bardet, just like you showed on Granon.
True.
This is not the same, I know, but
No, I think you're right. I think you're right.
I think Bardet surpasses Godou tomorrow.
You think Godou struggles? If he's getting dropped by Bjerg, that's not a good sign.
But yeah, but Godou's also pretty, like,
He
I
comes
don't really
back.
care. They both deserve a top 5 at this point in the
Nah,
race.
Menkes. Menkes going to play it smart. Menkes, look for him to be the mover tomorrow. Top 5
I
of the
don't
tour
see
would
it.
be mental. I think he's playing it smart. I think he's waiting for tomorrow. Today didn't suit him so much. Anyway, long recap, crazy stage. Let us know what you think down below. And we've got the Aftercam stage tomorrow. Thanks as always to yourselves and to Zwift for supporting the podcast. And we'll see you with the recap then. Ciao.